For generations, we, the people, have taken pride in the peaceful transition of power. But tonight, we remain a nation on edge. Wednesday at noon, Joe Biden will be sworn in as the 46th president. And President Trump's single term will end 1 week after he was impeached for a second time. Tonight, thousands of National Guard troops are protecting Washington, D.C. against the extremist threats. Those forced to rest on floors now finally getting cots. Today, state capitals across this country face similar threats. People did gather and some were armed. We began our coverage tonight with CBS's David Begnaud in Lansing, Michigan. Good evening.
Good evening. Around the country today, there was outrage, but no protests. The FBI had warned that the far-right group, the Begnaud Boys, might show up at capitals around the country today to protest. Sure enough, they came here to Lansing, but they were small in number, and it was all peaceful. Tonight, there is fencing around the state capitol here in Lansing. National Guardsmen surround the building. There were about 100 people who showed up today, and roughly a dozen came armed. This man was one of them. He said he represents the Begnaud Boys of Michigan, and he didn't want to tell us his name. What's the purpose of coming armed?
It's just a thing. You know, it's kind of our thing. It's what we do.
Are you anti-government?
I mean, not exactly. We don't like the massive overreaches of a lot of branches of the government today.
Are you far right?
No.
Are you extremist?
No.
Are you a militia?
I mean, not really. We're just kind of loose. Everybody's got their own ideals.
Michigan's capital has experienced armed protests before. Back in April, armed demonstrators went inside the capitol. Then in October, state and federal officials say they foiled a militia plot to kidnap the governor, Gretchen Whitmer. A new CBS News poll out today finds that more than 70% of those surveyed think the U.S. democracy is threatened, and a majority of people expect political violence to increase.
We are seeing an extensive amount of concerning online chatter, because one of the real challenges in this space is trying to distinguish what's aspirational versus what's intentional.
Aspirational or not, capitals from coast to coast have tightened security after social media chatter claimed that state houses were targets. Georgia put Humvees and snipers around its capital, but no protesters showed up there. Or in fortified Madison, Wisconsin. Only a small group showed up in Austin, Texas, and they came armed. Today was nothing like the insurrection of January 6th in the nation's capital. There is newly released video taken by a journalist for the New Yorker magazine, which shows the pro-Trump mob inside the Senate on the day of the siege.
While we're here, we might as well set up a government.
They rummaged, they prayed, others photographed government documents.
I think Chris would want us to do this, so.
Yeah. We love you and we thank you. In Christ's holy name we pray.
You know, Michigan, where we are tonight, is one of several states which has canceled its legislative session scheduled for next week. The reason why? Credible threats. Jericho?
David Begnaud for us in Lansing.